Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I rode the tanks in the general's ranks, while the blitzkrieg reigned and the bodies stank.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss The Car, which released in 1977, from writers Dennis Chirac, Michael Butler, Lane Slate, and directed by Elliot Silverstein. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows James Brolin's character, Captain Wade Parent. He's a small-town cop in a small town in America, and today he is woken up because there are killings going on. It appears a big, black Lincoln Continental is bombing around his desert town, murdering people and running them down. It has death in its headlights and evil at the wheel.
So this film came out in 1977 and took direct inspiration from Steven Spielberg's Duel and Steven Spielberg's Jaws, and combined you get The Car.
The Car!
A film that did so badly, the critics absolutely tore it to shreds, and it took 42 years to get a sequel.
Which is worse.
Which is actually, well, I can't say if it's worse because I'm never going to watch it, even though it does have Ronnie Cox in it, playing a different character. Just gonna pretend that I didn't know that this film ever did get a very late sequel, because this is one of those films that just know from childhood. This was actually one of my brother's favourite films.
Wow.
He would watch it on repeat.
Nice.
So I'd always walk in and just catch glimpses of this film, and it's just kind of one of those films that just stays now in my head. And The Car itself is absolutely iconic.
Yeah.
Like they got legendary motorist or vehicle expert who does lots of modelling work for films. It's the same guy who designed the original Batmobile.
Oh, wow.
He was the guy they brought in to design this car.
Oh, nice.
And, I mean, The Car is the star of this movie.
Totally.
It doesn't matter who else is starring in it.
Nope.
The Car is the thing that you think of first. And just looking at it on the front cover, looking at it when you see it on the film, the fact that they sort of brought down the hood a few inches and brought up the tail, the fenders along the sides to make it, just gives it that weight. It's got that mean looking grill on the front with the lights that look like eyes. Demon car.
Oh man, I remember this one so fondly. I must have been 11, 12. It was late one night. I was sitting in the front room flicking through TV looking for something to watch, and then all of a sudden I come across The Car. And I'm like, what's this? And I watched it and it scared me. Like I was a little kid, you know, just the viewpoint through the windscreen of the colorization, the friggin' horn, the horn. I mean, years later, Futurama would come along and be like, hey, here's the honkening with Bender. And I'm like, oh my God, it's The Car all over again.
I think Simpsons did an intro with The Car in one of the Treehouse of Horrors as well.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it's great that, like, because this film can often feel like a parody. Like, it feels like a spoof movie in a way, but all of the actors in this play it straight.
Yeah.
Like it's real, like it's actually happening. And that actually adds some weight to the film, because the film also has some pretty good suspense throughout it as well, making you fear this car. But I would also say, like, because this film is fairly bloodless, it is almost, I would say, a gateway horror movie for young adults to actually watch and get into horror.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, we're not looking at Oscar-winning friggin' filmmaking here. The film's called The Car. That's it. Like, you're just like, ooh, what's it about? Well, it's about a car, you know? And then when you see the car, you're like, oh, that's the car. You know? There's not really much going on here. That car is going to fuck some people up.
And it does.
But this is the thing. When I've talked to people about this in the past, some people have been like, "Oh, it's not very good." But I'm like, okay, if you put it in comparison to, say, like a Killer Bed, which is about a killer bed, you know, or The Wrangler, which is about a killer washing machine, or if you want to go as far to say, you know, Killer Bong, which is about a killer bong. There are worse movies.
I'll take my Maximum Overdrive and go.
Like Maximum Overdrive, I think that's also what got me into it as well. It's like I just watched The Car and then I'm seeing Maximum Overdrive where vehicles kill it. Like I half expected to sit down and watch this movie and not enjoy it as much as I did, because it's been years since I've watched it. I've seen a lot better horror movies, and when I was reading the notes, like Gary said, it's just coming off the back of Steven Spielberg's Duel and Jaws, and there's a lot of callbacks to those movies in this. Like I said, James Brolin is the small town cop. He's investigating these murders. He doesn't really understand what's going on or how this thing can do this. But you don't care. Right from the start, you got that blue kind of weird colorization coming through with the credits, so you're like, oh man, yeah, like this is kind of like a 50s B movie. Like,
oh hell yeah,
it's really just setting you up to say there's a fucking car out there and it gonna kill people.
Yeah, and the film wastes no time showing you the car, and it starts terrorizing these two cyclists.
Oh, yeah!
They're just racing along, like, yeah, race you through the tunnel. And then the car bombs it through, and we get the POV through the cars. It's chasing them down. It knocks her off first, and then he's pedaling away. We can see it bumping his tire, and then boom, off the bridge he goes. And remember, I was so happy that they did an actual stunt here.
Yes!
They didn't just throw a dummy off the bridge.
Exactly. You see his arms flaying, you see him screaming, you're like, oh my god, that guy's hit. Now,
impressive.
In fairness, they could have pulled off the road at any point. No cyclist could have just gone off the road and gone, asshole, let him drive past. But this is a horror movie. You've got to get the first two kills in. And yeah, like you said, that when you see that girl kind of get pressed up against the wall, you know her legs have been mangled and she's gone down the side.
I do have a bit of a continuity issue here where the car is banging her up against the wall. Yeah. And then when she does finally go flying over, there was no wall there. She's just before the actual bridge wall. So it was like, it's fine. It happened so quick. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And then the guy's gone flying off and you're just like, okay, we're in. The car or / the shark has made its first couple of kills.
Yeah.
So then we've got to cut to James Brolin waking up in bed. He's got his girlfriend, Lauren Humphreys, a school teacher played by Kathleen Lloyd there. And once again, you're just playing off the tropey kind of cop who's going to be in love and just having a really good, happy day, but something's going to fuck it up.
Yeah, he's really is the everyday man, and he's easy to root for and get behind. Yeah, we have this sort of funny moment with his girlfriend where she's pretending to be this drug baron or whatever, and then we got the little girls, his daughter's listening outside. It was like, man, we'll be listening to this, girls.
Yeah.
But it's not long before we do cut to our next victim, this musician who's hitchhiking outside this house where this guy is in the middle of beating his wife.
Yeah.
And he comes out, dragging his wife behind him as he starts giving abuse to whoever this bugle player is. He's like, it's not bugle, it's a French horn. And he's so over the top. And he's like, look, there's even a hole in the case for this. And he starts pulling raspberries back at him. I'm like, this is...
Oh, man, that line where it's just like, I'll shove that up your ass and you'll be farted for a year. I was like, that's good, Ryan. And that guy as well, if you don't recognise... That's the general from Predator.
Yeah.
The guy Arnie kind of says hello to at the beginning. I was like, my mind blew. I was just like, I have not seen this film in years. How did I not realise that's him? And then, the guy's there and he's getting his thumb out and he's waiting for the car to come bombing down. And he tries to say, doesn't he? He's just like, hey, man, if you don't slow down, you're not going to see me. I'm like, dude, I would not call that fucking guy over.
Nope. Like, yeah, let them pass.
But I did like that little line where it's just like, the car's going to pull up and it's going to be like a 34-year-old nymphomaniac. She's going to want to take me around the world. I was like, oh, this guy's got such positivity. You're going to die.
Yeah. He gets run over and then reversed on and then the car takes off.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it's all just, like I said, it's all just built up because the cops start to get the information through. And I really liked Sheriff Peck. Played by John Marley, who was like the kind of aged sheriff. He's got James Brolin and Ronnie Cox as kind of his deputies. And he's just got this feeling. They come across the bodies of the girl at the bottom of the hill. And he's just like, has she got like a locket on her? And he's just like, yeah. And so he starts to realise that actually something's really going on. They can't find the other boy's body because he's gone down
He's
river.
their first suspect at the moment. Yeah.
But they also get the call out towards the hitchhiker as well, and so they head out there. And Peck's got this kind of weird relationship going on with the old man and Bertha, I think the wife's called.
Yeah.
Because he's always dealing with this old man beating on his wife, and he's kind of in love with Bertha. And so I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was nice character build up, history for these characters. They're just not thrown away and we're giving all of the best lines to James Brolin. We're actually building up these people living in this town, Thomas County. You know, they're saying in little lines, aren't they? Look, you know, we mostly give out traffic tickets.
Yeah.
And now we've got 3 murders in the space of a couple of hours. Yeah. All from this black car that, even though it's speeding around, nobody can seem to find.
Yeah, and that's because, the guy who was beating his wife, they're trying to get a description of the car from him, and he's like, no license plate, blacked out windows, like, can't tell you what make or model it is. It was dust everywhere, and it was moving fast, and it was honking that horn.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's put up some roadblocks, let's lock off everything out of town and try and track this thing down.
Yeah. And it gets to the point, doesn't it, where Bertha ends up coming to the police station again. She's been beaten up. She's got a black eye and busted lip, you know, and Peck's, you know, really annoyed because she's not willing on giving up her husband or leaving him, and they just keep dealing with this. And so Peck's just like, oh man, you know what? Let's just go to the bar. Let's just go get a drink. And he's trying to talk to James Brolin's character, like, come on, let's just go. And James Brolin's like, look, you go get me a drink ready. I've got to finish off.
He's waiting for Luke, or Ronnie Cox's character.
Ronnie Cox's character to come back, yeah. And Ronnie Cox's character has got a bit of a drinking history, you know. And so
he's 1 year sober, I think?
1 or 2 years, yeah. And he sneaks off to have himself a drink. But while he's doing that, Peck goes outside and he's watching the old man kind of shout and scream at his wife. And he's just like, hey, Wade, look, I hate bullies. I can't stand bullies. And so as he's about to cross the road to go get a drink, all of a sudden the car is there. The headlights spring on. And, you know, at first it looks like it's aiming for the old man. But the old man jumps out of the way and it runs down the sheriff.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
I'm pretty sure the car also growled as it took off, and I was like, sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, runs him over, and well, I mean, Peck just kind of stands there. He doesn't try to move, but he's kind of, I guess, in shock that the car is there and coming right for him, like in the middle of the night. Well, takes him out.
I love the idea that the car can get from like 0 to fucking 90 in like a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And like, even, like I said, it's been years since I watched this, but I've always just firmly believed that the car is just the embodiment of evil.
Yeah.
You know, like, trying not to spoil it, but at the same time, spoilers. There's nothing driving this fucker.
Yeah, well, we kind of get to see it when we get the POV.
Yeah.
Like, because I'd imagine the POV to be like from the fender, like the front of the car, like where the headlights are. But no, it's inside the car.
Yeah.
But we can see there's no one in there.
That's it. And I you know, for me, growing up, it was either the car or Christine. You know, if these two fucking vehicles got together and made baby cars, you got the cars that ate Paris.
Right, yeah. Who would win in a fight between the car and Christine? I'm going to say the car.
I want to say the car as well.
Because we do find out that this car is bulletproof, it's indestructible, whereas Christine, well, it gets broken apart. She can repair herself.
Yeah, but it takes souls, doesn't it? She has to feed on souls, where the car, it don't need that.
Nope.
It can just do what it wants. And so they're trying to kind of lock down the town. They're trying to keep people off the streets, you know, because they're trying to find this car. If there's nobody on the streets, then the only vehicle that can be driving around is this car. But it's supernatural, so it's able to teleport, it's able to keep itself hidden.
We never actually see the car teleport, but it does seem to be able to get around all of their blockades.
Yeah,
totally. With no explanation.
Yeah, but it's also that they've got this kind of town parade going on, you know, which is led by Lauren, the teacher, you know, and you've got the two daughters of Wade there, played by Kim Richards and Kyle Richards. And I mean, I gotta give a shout out to Kim Richards. I mean, she was a bit of a sweetheart for me when I was younger. Escape from Witch Mountain, Assault on Precinct 13. You know, this young child actress was able to actually, you know, hold some good roles. And mean, she doesn't have a great one in this, but I get it when she's there on screen with James Brolin. That like she's a good enough actress to say, "Yeah, Daddy, I'm your daughter. We can do this. We can talk about adult-y stuff." And so that builds up the emotion that when you see them out on this track practicing the parade thing with Lauren, that shot where the cop was up on the tower, and you just kind of caught the flash of the headlights from the light. I'm
right.
like, it's
car's coming.
Yeah.
This is one of the big like spectacle scenes in the film. This is like, it's the moment where, you know, the shark gets spotted.
Yeah.
And all the swimmers running out of the ocean onto the beach. It's the panicked crowd sequence, you know, and this film does it well. We've got people being trampled by horses.
Yeah.
And the panic as they're trying to get away. The car is there honking its horn. It's bumping over things. People are running away. I do like the guys on horseback that are trying to lure the car away from the children. And most of them, well, they get sacrificed under those tires.
Yeah, and I've got to give credit to them as well, because even though you don't see the stunt of the car running them down, because obviously they're not going to run down horses, you know, that would just be too dangerous. The quick edits of the car doing a turn, the guy, close up of the guy coming off the horse, and then you're seeing him on the floor, you're like, yeah, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like with the other kills that we have seen, the film's not letting us see all the gore. Our imagination's doing most of the work.
That's right. Yeah, there was, like I said, a little bit of blood when they find the crime scene of where the girl went over the road. You see the blood along the wall. But that's about it for the blood in the film.
Yeah.
And the car ends up chasing these kids everywhere, and eventually they do run into this old cemetery, this old abandoned church area.
Yeah.
And the car pulls up right up front and stops. And it's a great shot. I love the framing of the cinematography of the car there. And that's when Lauren just starts screaming at the car. She starts belittling it, calling it a chicken shit piece of crap. she throws a log at it, and the car.
I was like, "Ooh,
you're making this car angry." The car circles around. She's like, "Oh, where are you going? I'll let you crawl out. Come on."
Man, I love the fact, I was reading the notes as well, they had 4 of these cars built.
That's right.
3 to destroy.
Yeah, one for close-ups.
And 1 for close-ups. So I was just like, right, okay, they really wanted to obviously showcase this vehicle. And while it's there and it's got all these people like hiding in the cemetery, one of the other teachers, Martha, I think she makes a run for it so that she can get to the cops' radio and she can call in for help. And so Wade hears it over on his bike and he starts organizing all the cops and he's racing over there and he's screaming about all the different roadblocks. Because once the car hears the sirens, it's like, well, I'm gone.
Right?
It just fucks off. And I'm like, okay, there must be a reason. Is it toying with these people? You know, because it could easily just stay there and just kill everybody.
Yeah.
You know, if it wanted to. But it literally just runs off. And it's being chased, isn't it, by the it heads towards that guy who's got the shotgun.
That's right,
it's a blockade. And so the guy fires off a couple of rounds because the car stops. He doesn't actually do any damage. He's then chasing it. Yeah. He's chasing it up that canyon.
That's right, yeah.
And he loses track of it. And then all of a sudden the car's in front of him comes back.
Pulls out. Like T-bones him almost, right? Yeah. But he opens up the car door and the car's like, I'm just going to close that car door for you. He looks out the other car door and he's like, oh, I might die.
I might die. It's like, no, mate, you are going to die.
Just nudges him off. But I was like, well, I mean, if you're in a car, an American car in the 1970s, you know, one little nudge and that car's going to explode anyway, so...
I thought that as well, but then I was just like, the car's evil. It can just make shit explode because it's fucking evil. We know 1970s cars were terrible. But it starts coming back down, and you've got those other 2 police cars that are just like, right, if we group up, he's got to try to stop. He can't hit us both. It's got to stop. And the car just does this death roll. You know, it's a great stunt.
It's amazingly
watching it turn.
Yeah, it's a great stunt watching it turn and roll over those cars and then land and drive off, horn honking the whole time.
Because you watch the car get smashed up as it does the roll, and then as it drives off, it's unscathed, it's rejuvenated.
It's a mistake. I mean, the director has said like he didn't want to show the destruction on the car because it's indestructible, but like they're real cars, they're real props. Like they're going to get trashed when you do this sort of stunts.
But I actually think that works for it. That the car can go, I can do this to myself and come out the other side unscathed.
Yeah.
What about you, bitches?
Yeah, all dead.
All dead.
Yeah, it's a great stunt, and it's one of those shots where you're just like, how do they do that? And apparently there's like a mini explosion underneath the car as it was swerving to give it that jump and that roll. That's a great stunt.
Yeah. James Brolin, Captain Wade, comes across the car to after this little chase sequence, and he pulls his gun out on it, and he fires at its tires, does nothing. Fires at its windshield, nothing. And so the car kind of opens up its door a little bit, or lowers its window, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So he heads over to see if there's any driver. Now he'd been told earlier by Chaz, the Indian police detective who works with them, that there was this old lady who'd seen inside the car when it killed the old sheriff, and she had remarked in Indian or whatever it was that there was no driver. And so they're under the belief that that can't be right, but he gets hit by the door. Now it's a bit of a weak hit, and I'm sure my friend
It was so powerful, man. Knocked him clean out.
It's an evil car, man. It's an evil door.
What? It's the lamest door slam hit in any movie ever.
Halloween Kills, where he kicks the girl's gun into her.
I mean, it's on par. It's just the fact that for me, it's a gaping plot hole in this film. That the car pulls up in front of him and lets him shoot it a couple of times, and the car's like, yeah, see, well, can't hurt me. I'm just going to open the door for you a little bit, and then I'm going to tap you with it, and then I'm just going to sit here in the sun, and then just drive off, disappear, whatever. It just doesn't kill him.
I like to think it's teleported away.
Everybody it's come across that it could, and yet when it gets to Wade, it's just like, nah.
But that's the thing. Like, there's always this overhanging question of why the car is doing this throughout the movie, and I've always wondered that ever since I was a kid. Well, that's it. It's like, is it really Satan came to Earth one day and took on the form of a car and just wanted to kill people? You know, because a few of the times it only really kills people that insults it. Like the hitchhiker, I reckon it would have just left if he hadn't given it the finger.
What about the cyclists?
They're cyclists, mate.
Cycling without helmets?
Mate, I don't know if I can speak for every driver in the world, but when I'm driving, cyclists are a bit of a pain. Like, I'm very respectful to them, and I give them space, but at the same time, when you're behind one and they're going, I sit there and I'm like,
oh no.
But yeah, the car door hits Wade, knocks him out,
hospitalizes him,
teleports away, and Wade wakes up in the hospital, and he's speaking to Ronnie Cox and Chaz and Lauren. And he's just like, look, you know, there was no driver. There was nothing in there. I shot at it. And and Ronnie Cox is kind of starting to get this idea of why. Because you've got little snippets of information from Luke's character that he's a recovering alcoholic. He's gone to church. And now this has happened, and it's really questioning his faith.
Yeah, there was a sequence here. I really liked Ronnie Cox's acting.
Oh, yeah.
For the first 3/4 of this scene, where he's starting to recount, and he's starting to well up and cry as he's recalling all of the people that have just died this last couple of days.
Yeah.
And then he just does this dramatic walk up and lean against the wall like, oh, that's so bad. Yes, oh, come on.
I gotta love Ronnie Cox, because I like to imagine as well, like, he's just gone through all that shit in Deliverance.
Right.
And gone, I need to get to a small town. So he takes on a job of a small town sheriff and gets attacked by the car. And he's like,
now I'm moving to the big city.
I'm moving to the big city. And that's,
OCP are hiring.
Yeah, OCP's hiring. And that's why he's such a dick.
Yeah.
Because he's like, look, man, I've seen some shit in my time. But the Chaz, the Indian detective, is tasked by Wade to take Lauren home, to get her some clothes, because he wants Lauren to go back to his house and take care of his daughters, because, you know, they're in love and they've been building up this relationship of her stepping in as the new mum character. And so Chaz is like, yeah, okay. And I like that little bit where he's just like, Chaz. And they just kind of nod at each other. And Chaz kind of acknowledges like, yeah, I will protect your girl. And so he's driving Lauren home, and he passes like, I don't know if it's like his grandmother's or a family member's, caravan, the old lady that we were talking about. And as he drops Lauren off, he's just like, hey, Lauren, do you mind if I head back and see my family member? And she's like, no, that's fine. I'll be at least 30 minutes, get my stuff together. You come back. And so Chaz drives off. But they'd already passed the car, hiding in these bushes.
Yep. Stalking her.
Yeah. And so the wind starts to pick up again, which is a sign that obviously something is coming. And she heads back into her house, and she picks up the phone because she's kind of scared that she thinks she's being stalked. And so
she thinks she can hear the engine. Yeah, the wind.
Man, this sequence has always stuck with me.
Hell yeah. It's the fact that it's perfectly framed where we can see the headlights of the car approaching from the distance, getting closer and closer and closer. She's yelling down the phone like she's scared. She doesn't know what to do. And before she realizes, she looks and the car is flying through the window of her house.
Yeah.
We see her disappear out of the frame in an instant as the car smashes through the other side and continues honking its horn as it shoots off back down the road.
It's like it's laughing.
Yes.
It's like it's laughing.
Mocking.
Yeah, mocking him.
Especially after the way she yelled at him outside the cemetery.
Yeah.
And now the car has had its way. And it's such a shocking death. It's so... because she is a prominent character, she's the love interest.
Yeah.
Like, she's a good person as well. She's not really done anything wrong. And to see her just taken out that way, it's shocking.
It'd be like if Brody's wife had been eaten by the shark in Jaws.
Yeah, right.
You'd be like, oh, shit. Yeah. And I really liked the framing of this next bit where they're in the house. And you've got Ronnie Cox, Chaz, and Wade all in this house seeing the destruction. The camera just kind of had them, all three of them there, and then it faded to them being there again, and Wade's just like, she was on the phone to me, she was telling me that she was scared, and Chaz is feeling really bad as well because he's just like, I shouldn't have left her. And it's just like, Wade says like, you'd be dead too if you'd stayed, because it would have killed you too. And so we looked in the notes, and Gary pointed out to me that like there were like 5 writers for this movie, and it's a shame, really, because some of the sequences are really, really well written and really well acted. And then some of the sequences, the dialogue is really quite weak. And the actors are trying to do their best to emphasize or make it, emotional. But you just can't. And so I wish they had kept James Brolin's character, Wade, kind of to the point where he wants to destroy this car. He doesn't understand why, but he thinks it's evil. And his mate is telling him that he also thinks it's evil.
Yeah.
But as the movie goes on, it's like Luke believes it's more evil than Wade does. And Wade's seen more of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's really Ronnie Cox who's just like, well, I wouldn't approach them in the cemetery. It's hallowed ground. So it's clearly a demon. Therefore, that's why it can't get into the church grounds. So, we need to fight it with holy fire.
Yeah.
No. Wait a minute. How about dynamite?
Oh,
let's get the film's villainous wife-beating asshole to come and save the day.
I love that.
What?
I love that bit where they've locked up the old man because he was screaming bloody murder and whatnot, and so they want him to get out of the cell, and Chaz goes and gets him and just grabs him by the throat, and they walk together, and he's like, sit, and I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah, and then it cuts to them getting a plan together. They're loading all this dynamite into the back of these police cars.
Yeah.
They're planning to lure the car up into the canyon and blow it up or bury it.
But this sequence as well with Wade, I thought was really well done, where he goes home, and he's really upset. I don't think he's told his daughters at that point about what's happened to Lauren.
Right.
And he's getting his bike ready because his plan is to be on the road for the car to chase him. And he goes into the shed, into his garage, and he gets some stuff, and he comes back out, and then he goes back in there, and the fucking car is there.
Silent. It's just there.
It's just
and not only
there.
that, it's usually when we see it outside, it's covered in dust and debris, but it looks pristine. It is clean.
Yeah.
And it is waiting. And again, I'm like, why aren't you killing everybody, car? What are you doing? Because every time Wade goes to open the door, the car revs up and charges. And then sinks back again. I'm like, what are you doing? You've been teasing Wade this whole time. Like, what are you doing? And then it starts to flood the room with its exhaust. The horn as well has blasted out all the windows. So I was like, well, the car was flooding the room with carbon monoxide to suffocate him, and then it blew all the windows out to save him. I don't understand you, car.
No. But he jumps on his bike and he bombs off, and
sped up footage.
Up footage. You gotta love some sped up footage. I get it, using it for the car to make the car look like it's going super fast. But when you do it for the
Everything.
bike and the cop cars, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's just so silly. There's no saving it, unfortunately. We get, like, they couldn't drive at those speeds, so they sped up the footage to get that effect. But, like, even when I saw this film for the first time 30 years ago, I was like, that looks awful. I remember asking, I was like, why is wrong? Because it looks like when you press fast forward. That's what it looks like. I'm like, why is it looking that way? And it's like, because it has been. That was when I was learning about film.
Yeah.
And that you could do that.
You could speed up the footage.
But, it cheapens the entire chase for me. But it's fine. Like, you've been with the film all the way up until this point.
Yeah.
You can forgive this weakness.
You're just getting to this big final showdown now. And what I think...
Well, sorry, I just cut you off there. There is another instance in the film towards this part as well where... Like, the car is kind of been able to be wherever it needs to be, chase anyone down, fly through houses to kill people.
Yeah.
Yet, like, you get, like, a few inches off the ground, you get on, like, an elevator platform, the car just, like, I can't get to you. I'm stuck. Like, I've got to drive away now. It's like,
I love the fact that as the car's chasing Wade, though, and he's contacting Ronnie Cox and he's like saying to him, like, have you got the dynamite in position? They're like, no, we're not even in position yet. And then the car goes, okay, fuck you. And it changes direction and it starts chasing Ronnie Cox and their van and all those guys. Like it kind of knows something's going on, something's up. And we're cutting back to Chaz and the old man at the quarry, and they're putting these dynamite boxes in, and it's like, how many boxes are you doing? Well, we've done 5. We've got 10 more to go. I'm like, how much? Like you're really gonna...
You really want to make it dead.
Yeah, you really want to make it dead. And when they get to the quarry, you've got the car chasing way down to the bottom of this canyon so that they can actually have more time to put the dynamite in, and everybody's racing around trying to get wires in and stuff like that. And there was this beautiful shot where you're just looking at the quarry and you can hear these weird kind of noises, like, what is that? And at first I was like, oh, that's just putting audio. That's horrible. Why would you use that? But then I saw the bike come around the corner and then the car come around the corner. And as they came close to the camera, then you realize the noise you were hearing was the noise of their engines. It was just being echoed through the canyon that you didn't hear it until they got close. I was like, man, that was really good, because between, the background kind of, cinematography of the countryside, the desert and stuff like that, it's the landscape has really helped, keep this film kind of on its own. There is no outside help coming in. There's no army coming in. There's no other city police forces, nobody else. They're literally on their own in this tiny little county being chased by this fucking evil car.
Yeah. And well, this is where they blow it up.
Oh, yeah.
Ronnie Cox is there screaming at Wade to, let's go, we gotta go, the car's coming right for us.
Man, Tremors. Made me think of Tremors.
Absolutely. And the car's bombing right towards them, and Wade's like, no, we're gonna jump out of the way at the last second. And they do, they part ways, the car goes right for them, goes off, and then it's cannoned right off the cliff. And as it's going down, they hit the dynamite sticks, and there's a huge freaking explosion.
Huge, yeah.
And then we see like this fiery claw move through the fire.
Yeah.
And then in this plume of smoke, this demonic face with a tongue coming out.
Yeah.
And then it's gone again into the explosion of fire. And Ronnie Cox is like, did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Wade's like, no.
No. Moving on.
It's like, bro, seriously, how did you not see that? Like,
he saw it, he just didn't want to see it.
Yeah, like, I was looking at the guys who survived. I'm like, there's 8 guys there, 7 of them knew. Like, even the old man's like, I'm going to make some money off of this fucking story. I'm going to put in a requisition form for all the dynamite I use, because I killed a killer car. And Wade's like, no.
But did they kill it, or did they just bury it?
That's it. I mean, the credit sequence really cool, where you actually see the car now in, like,
driving through a city.
And it's like, oh man, why didn't you make a sequel? Why didn't you have like a trilogy? Like, we're gonna be fucking milking this franchise for years.
They call the second one What were your favourite scenes from The Car?
Sorry, I'm just still thinking of Lightning McQueen being chased by the car. Oh man, anything with the car in it just absolutely looks fabulous. You know, like I said, that opening credit sequence where it was like the blue tinge on the camera with the cast names are coming through, and then it slowly just changes into real color, and then the car just comes speeding up. You know, taking out those two cyclists at the beginning. Yes, they should have gotten out of the way, but hey, where's the fun in that? You want to see a real guy take a dive off that bridge. The bridge shot when James Brolin was at the bottom and he sees the kid who's dead,
Yeah.
you know, and he just looks up and he looks along the bridge. I'm like, that's a fabulous shot. And I just felt like, especially with it being in a desert and the sun baking down, it just made everything feel hot and tense and just in its way. The line, farting music for a year, I kind of laughed along with the hippie guy. That would just be funny, just to be farting music
That
for a
asshole
year.
has some funny lines, because when the guy almost drops the explosives,
Yeah.
it's like, careful with that explosives, kid, they'll send your balls up to your tonsils. It's like,
Yeah.
what line is that?
I'm just like, thank you, General, for all the lines.
You cough with these blasted caps and they'll blow your balls up around your tonsils. Easy now.
When he rolls into the two police cars, you know, the killing the other copper and pushing him off the ledge was a bit corny. But then you just follow it up with that roll into the two police cars, the explosion, and then coming out the other side just unscathed. Absolute cracker. The sound, the weird sound in the canyon, I just thought that was just really great. You know, if that was really natural, if they were just like, hey guys, drive down, and then they just turned the camera on and that was the noise that they got, oh my god, it just, you get really lucky sometimes while making a movie, and that was just so eerie, so weird. And then to see the two of them come around the corner, you know, Wade being chased by the car, I was just like, yeah, let's go. And my all-time favorite sequence of the car is when he bombs right through Lauren's house.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there are some really great and memorable sequences in this film. You've already mentioned nearly all of them, but yeah, the two cyclists getting killed at the beginning, then the hitchhiker getting killed, the car attacking the marching band at the fair, and all of the chaos outside of the cemetery area was great. I love the other cop being pushed off the cliff and the car just exploding. I loved the car doing the flip over the other two cop cars, the car flying through Lauren's house, the car exploding at the end, and the demon thing in the fire. But there's one line of dialogue that trumps them all in this film.
Oh, yeah?
And it's at the cemetery sequence when the old lady comes out after the car's driven off and goes, "Tadpole!" It's like, what did she say? It sounded like cat poo. Cat poo! Like, what did she say? I'll rewind it again. Tadpole! She says tadpole.
Okay.
It's absolutely nonsense. I was like, she said it with such conviction. Like, I was like, could you just not swear?
I get one line in this sequence and I'm gonna make it work.
Hell yeah, she did. I'll forever remember tadpole. Ian, do you recommend the car?
I highly recommend the car, but at the same time, I may be watching this movie with nostalgia glasses on. I watched this at a very young age and it stuck with me for years to come. I haven't watched it in years. This is maybe the second time I've watched it in my lifetime, and I still think it's absolutely great. It's stupid. It's silly. The idea that a killer car comes from hell and just starts driving around a desert town killing people seems absolutely absurd. But so did a killer shark going to a small town place and eating people. You know, but people rushed to see it and then wouldn't get in the water. I went and watched the car and was like, I don't want to drive. Ever in the desert. Ever. If I ever saw a black car on the road like that motherfucker, I would just... It's absolutely great. I think James Brolin is brilliant in his role, and you know, with the fact that this is the same guy from the Amityville Horror, you know, and Westworld, you know, so he's got some real good acting credits underneath his belt. Same as Ronnie Cox. Ronnie Cox, he doesn't have a lot of material to work with in this movie, but him and Wade work really well as partners trying to stop this evil car from going around and just wiping out their town. And shout out to the car. Man, you gave me nightmares for years.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm also certainly going to be recommending The Car. This is a horror classic that's thoroughly entertaining with some great stunts and memorable sequences. James Brolin is good in the lead role. It's a strong performance. He embodies the everyman who transitions from skeptic to hero as he attempts to save his family and the town against the demonic car. The rest of the cast are pretty hammy, with some over-the-top acting, but it never detracts from the overall suspense and horror, with some excellent cinematography and lighting in creating a real monster with the car, the real star of the film. The stunts were great, all practical, and they really elevate the film. Though the sped-up chase scenes look really comical, you get a sense that they did their best with what they had. The score by Leonard Roseman was unsettling, with a mix of eerie synths and bombastic orchestral motifs that really heightened the action and the horror. So yeah, if you've never seen this, give it a chance. It's more than worth a watch. For me, this is a classic and always rewatchable. What evil drives the car? Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.